Welcome back to the channel. My name's Scott. Today we're going to be opening up boxes from the two estates that I mentioned. My father's estate, my brother's estate, both of whom were large collectors, as am I. These boxes, to my eye, have not been touched since they were originally packed at my father's passing about 8 years ago. My brother moved these several times over the last few years. At his passing, I inherited them. I'm just getting around to cracking them open. These are actually labeled baseball cards. I do believe that is correct. There may be other items inside. Before we jump into the items, I do want to mention, as I have said in other videos, I'm not the biggest sports fan. That's probably an understatement. I knew who a lot of the major players are that make the popular, that hit the media when they break a record, or when it's the World Series or the Super Bowl or what have you. But day in, day out, I know some of the players from when I was a kid that the other kids were talking about. I was much more into film and TV. But I was watching another YouTuber, and he mentioned something that helped me greatly. I had not actually thought about apps aiding me in identifying what I had. Because to me, as you saw in an earlier video, I had, for example, one album of baseball, a few football, odds and ends cards. I had no idea what I had, because 95% of the players were new names to me, or if I'd heard them in a past life, in one ear and out the other. Off camera, I found another box, an entire box. It turns out it was an entire year of baseball cards from the Topps Company in 1985. Now, the 1980s and the 1990s were when collectors figured out, or Topps and some of the other companies figured out, that people are buying these cards again, and they mass produced the cards. So lots of the cards really aren't, like, a lot of the dealers will not buy collections from those years because there are so many, or they'll only buy them if you come to them with thousands, and they'll give you a lowball offer. But as you would assume, there are lots of players that we do know, as you saw in some that had been pulled. Kobe, LeBron, football players, basketball players, football players, hockey players that were introduced to all of us in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s. And so there are rookie cards that are valuable, or there are interesting cards that have subsequently, you'll have to dig through lots of those sets to find the 1, 2, the 5. Some of the cards that you saw in an earlier piece, I think, were probably pulled from that one box. For example, Mark McGwire's card, Roger Clemens' card, Kirby Puckett's card. And how I started to identify some of the cards that were more collectible or more valuable. And when I say that, obviously, you say valuable, people think money, but it's also sentiment, or people's favorite players, or players that maybe they burned out completely. Dwight Gooden, who I know because of all of his problems when he was playing. There were players that passed away, players that got arrested, players that just burned out in a fireball, players that went on to storied careers. The app that I found that the YouTuber mentioned was CollX, CollX. It's free, that's a bonus. Download the app, install using your phone, take a picture of the item. It searches, it'll pull up, in some cases, it will pull up a number of possibilities, and it'll give you the current market value. You can build your entire collection, taking picture by picture by picture of the items in front of you using your phone, and then you have the items you can store safely, and you can look at your item via the app to see what your collection is. If let's say you're into baseball, you can see which cards am I missing. For example, in that box, I have every card except one common. It's probably only worth a couple of dollars, but if I wanted to have a complete set, I'd go onto eBay and I would know which card to buy. So I'm not getting paid, I'm not getting sponsored. Just if you find yourself in the same position that I am, CollX, CollX. They do sports cards. I think they do some Pokemon, maybe Yu-Gi-Oh. I haven't found a good app for non-sports cards other than Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh yet. But that's what I have been using. That's what I'm going to probably continue to use. At some point when I've gone through most of the boxes and I have an idea of which cards are worth the money to get graded, because if you get something graded, it has a high enough grade, it's worth a lot more. I will probably start doing that, and the app has been helpful. The app's not 100%. There are lots of reviews that there are probably some of you watching that will say, "Oh, CollX is horrible." There are more than one app. Some of them charge. I just wanted something that was quick, that was easy, that was free, to give me a sense of what I had. It's not something I'm married to. It is just to aid in the mammoth task of going through these. And I don't need to know, point on, this card is worth this. I just need a sense at this point of, so that I can sort everything that I have. And I know I have some comics. I don't know that I'll have any today. I know that I have found previously a box or two, 20, 50 comics. If anyone knows a good app for comic books, that would be very helpful. I know that there are several apps I was reading online, and again, I don't really want to pay for an app if I'm only going to be using it for a limited time, or particularly if there are recurring annual costs, because I don't know how long it's going to take me to go through these. I don't want to, oh, I found an app, download this, pay the $20 before I get into the meat of finding out, selling, grading, what have you. I don't want to be, hit for another $20. I would rather just start off in the beginning with something that is free. Album of, well, this says, hopefully it's correct, Basketball Commons. And it is, in fact, a lot of basketball cards. The issue with this, while these were common at the time, some of the players may have gone on to great careers. Some of the players may have burned out. Some of the players may have sadly died, making the cards more rare. This says entertainment on the side. On the top it says rock cards and cartoon cards. Decision 90, is that right? These are not sports cards. The card in the middle is actually Richard Nixon. These are political cards. They say wild card at the top. Everybody from Oliver Stone to George Bush, Bill Clinton, and cartoon cards, some heavy metal cards. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons trading cards. Something called Ravencroft. First Trading Card Series 2. Some Marvel cards. Franzetta, DC, and rock and roll cards. Ted Nugent, Billy Idol, Bon Jovi, Iron Maiden, a hologram of Iron Maiden in the top right. A hologram of Skid Row. Nickelodeon cards, Child's Play, Archie, movie cards, Hook, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Batman, the first movie, with Jack Nicholson card, and some Simpson cards going back to, and these I actually know because I purchased some myself when the series was first introduced. Down here on the bottom, that's the first series of Simpson trading cards. And they actually surprisingly don't have a huge value. While some of the other things have gone on, those, for whatever reason, never really took off. Maybe they were in that wave of cards that were just overproduced. Okay, this says Jordan basketball, and the first page is in fact Michael Jordan, and I'm just skimming through. There are many, many, many Michael Jordan cards here. In fact, I have yet to see any in this entire album okay, again, skimming through this many pages, I saw nothing but Michael Jordan cards. And in the back, 6 or 7 pages are Michael Jordan Pogs. They may have another name. That's what I've always heard that they're called. And they're all from Upper Deck. Oh, I was mistaken. The very last page are not Pogs. They are Michael Jordan coins. A few coins, also from Upper Deck. It looks like one box. Okay. Comics. Excuse me. May actually work better with me standing. Ignore the girth. 60 cents, July 25th, G.I. Joe. The new Teen Titans. Amazing Spider-Man, 65 cents, number 263. $1.50 Legion of Superheroes. Amazing Spider-Man, 60 cents. X-Men, number 153. The annual edition of Thor, 50 cents. A dated Avengers, number 147. Amazing Spider-Man, 262. Avengers, 162. Okay, I only know who this character was because I was introduced via the Disney Channel on the recent series, Moon Knight. I don't see a number immediately, but it is August the 29th, Marvel Spotlight, 25 cents. Number 264, the Hulk. All right, now this one's interesting because, again, I only know this from the very recent Disney series, Werewolf by Night. $123, Uncanny X-Men. The Incredible Hulk. It's part 2 of 2. Future Imperfect. Number 197, Uncanny X-Men. The End of the Thing, featuring She-Hulk versus the new Miss Marvel. Number 206, Uncanny X-Men. Legionnaires, number 2. 149, Iron Man. If my dates are correct, I think most of these are from the 70s, maybe the early 80s. Number 140, Invincible Iron Man. Some of the 25-cent ones are obviously from maybe the early 1970s. Number 86, The Thing and Sandman. Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man and Iron Man, number 145. The New Mutants. Number 62, a 35-cent Defenders. Number 36, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man. It was a 40-cent comic. Another G.I. Joe comic. This is a pretty deep box. I have a lot more to go. Superman. 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 Here's an X-Men. Well, this is at least from the 90s because it's a dollar comic and it says down at the bottom, Fantastic Four 1961 to 1991. So this comic's at least 30 years old. A Batman comic number 472. Superman. Batman, Holy Terror. The Griffin, book 1 of 6. The Beginning of Tomorrow, Batman. Long Shot, 1 in a 6-issue limited series. Robin, the Joker's Wild. All right, one of my favorites, but mostly from the films, Deadpool, direct edition. Number 1. A Superman. Superman. A Ghost Rider. An Amazing Spider-Man. Number 363, The Avengers. This is from 1993, The Legacy of Superman. Number 40, The New Warriors. Superman Action Comics. X Factor. Spectacular Spider-Man. I think these all seem to be a little newer. Superboy, Supergirl. X-Force joins Spider-Man. Superman, Batman, Amazing Spider-Man. All right, this one's a little older. The Invaders. It's a 35-cent comic. Here's an Iron Man, number 126. Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. A 35-cent Peter Parker and the Spectacular Spider-Man. A 75-cent Flash. Legionnaires. Rom. The Uncanny X-Men. Green Lantern. Alpha Flight. Number 189, Iron Man. The Star Squadron. Another Alpha Flight. Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I know from the Flash series. Supergirl. Trinity. Amazing Spider-Man. The West Coast Avengers. The Blue Devil. G.I. Joe. All right, this is the last of the box. Just for interest's sake, the box was labeled Sears Craftsman Electric Airless Sprayer. So, gotta look in every box. Vigilante, Iron Man, The New Mutants, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Legion of Superheroes. I think this is the first Fantastic Four I've run across. Fantastic Four. The Defenders. Tales of the Legion of Superheroes. The West Coast Avengers. The Avengers. Blue Devil. The Eternals, which isn't a movie. Legion of Superheroes. Squadron Supreme. X-Men and Alpha Flight. This is the first war comic I've run across. The Fighting Marines. Number 132, Uncanny X-Men. I said that about war comics. Here's a 50-cent Battlefield Action. And number 246, GI Combat. Another Marvel. Legion of Superheroes. Number 172, Iron Man. This is from 1985, Coyote Meets Badger. Never heard of that one. Now here's one I have heard of, The Spectre. Well, that was very interesting, at least from my perspective, because I did not know that I was gonna have that many comic books. The box said on the side, it said baseball cards, and another spot it said comics. It was a little of both. Let's jump into another box.